Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, switching to my radio voice. And today I have with me Max Smith, co-founder and CEO. And by the way, in the recording, I don't know if my pointing will be in the correct direction, so I apologize if that's wrong. The jacket is Max. And you'll have the name underneath you, so people will know. And also Lance Dowdell, co-founder and COO at Motive Engage. So first of all, thank you both for joining me today on this Friday, July 26th to record. How are you guys doing?
Yeah, good man. It's good to be here. It's a little weird being the guest instead of being the interviewer, so it's a good time.
That's right. I actually, before we started recording, I was actually saying that I'm sure you have been on the podcast, but no, it was the other way around. I was on yours.
Yeah.
So great to have you guys on the show. So Lance, you are St. Louis, Missouri, and Max, Albany, New York.
Yep.
So late July. I'm guessing Albany is actually quite nice.
Albany is quite nice. We got a little bit of humidity right now. We're about to come into our best time of the year up here. I was probably 23, 24 years old before I found out about it when I was working at Enterprise Rent-A-Car. But we have something called leaf peeper season up here. No idea. I just always naturally enjoy the beauty of the leaves changing, being out in the woods, going hiking, doing all that. But people fly in from all around the world to come visit upstate New York because we have a particular color of red, I believe, that you can see nowhere else.
Oh, so, super interesting. Super interesting. And St. Louis is probably just hot late July.
Pretty much. You have a shower in the shower and then you go outside and have another shower because it's so humid.
Okay. I am in my native Costa Rica, but not in the city. I am up in the mountain in the San Carlos region. And when I say up in the mountain, I mean literally up in the mountain. Like imagine like a beautiful house. My cousin and her husband are both doctors. Work at the local hospital here, so beautiful house, but truly in the middle of the mountain, like bunch of green. In fact, I'll kill my background for a little bit. That is how the entire region looks all year round because there's no real seasons here, right?
That's awesome.
And basically in that direction it's down the mountain, in that direction is up the mountain. We're in a little flat piece. A little flat plot in the middle of the mountain. It's amazing. I have internet at all. Definitely not as good as I normally have, but we'll hope for the best. All right. So we always give the guest the chance to give the elevator pitch. Either of you or together. What is Motive Engage?
Lance, you want to go ahead?
Yeah. So really where Motive Engage came from is Max and I have obviously, been in the game a long time now. And what we realized working with the various companies we have is there's an entire sales foundational layer that needs to exist before you can even bring on any kind of a sales force. And really that foundation will set either the success or failure of those sales reps. And so what we seek to do at Motive Engage really is set that. So it's things like processes, there's things like onboarding guys, sales enablement, is the right tech stack set up the right way. So as a sales rep, is your day effectively automated? Have you got your product market fit? Do you know what your ideal customer is? Because a lot of people just don't know, right? And so laying that foundation and then bringing sales reps in, we've found has had massive success. And then on the marketing side, what we do specifically for insurance is we will act as an outsourced content creator for your socials. We will manage your socials if you want, because Max and I found, we've been in insurance, 4 or 5 years now, is agencies have an incredible amount of knowledge in their head, but they don't really put that out for public consumption. You only really get that when you sit down in a client meeting with them. So what we seek to do is, extract that and then put that into easy to consume, easy to post content, and then really build up their social presence. Because if you're an agency, you have to compete against the carriers, the direct carriers, right? Well, what's your differentiator? It's what you know, your experience, and their personal touch. So that really is what we seek to, close that gap. Because when you're finding insurance, it's never what company do I know? It's who do I know? And then who do I know? Well, this really knowledgeable person on LinkedIn that taught me a bunch of really interesting stuff. I'm going to go to them. And so it's really mapping that sales and then that marketing and then putting it together to have really a solid foundation there. So that's where Motive Engage came from.
And proof is sort of in the pudding with that. One of the reasons I switched agencies, I was with Geico and, went with an independent agent, paid a little bit more, but ultimately got more coverage because they identified things on LinkedIn such as collections. And I have a couple collections and didn't even think about insuring them, just wasn't top of mind. And so got a direct message one day that hit on very specific things that I had engaged with. So they paid attention to me as a consumer and a buyer, used that messaging, direct to me, and then got in a meeting and they were able to switch me, within a couple of weeks. Well, you're on mute, Tony.
Oh, you're on mute, Tony.
You mentioned competing with the carriers, and that is a very interesting concept. Because you're absolutely right. On one hand, by definition, we go through some carriers in order to actually cover the losses, right? They're paying us commission.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, there's the direct carriers who have immense marketing budgets, right? Geico, Progressive spend in the top 10 marketing spenders in the US, right? We're talking like beer level spending. And regardless of the size of your agency, you can't compete with that on sheer expense alone, right? You have to be, even if you're a kind of regional agency, but even more if you're a small agency, you have to guerrilla to win. You have the local piece, which historically, so I've never been an agent. I always like to say that I've never been an agent. So I'm not licensed, like on the sales side, I've never done it. But quite clearly, having chatted with thousands of agents back in the day, you made sure that your office was in the right location, and you sponsored the local soccer team and became active in the Chamber of Commerce, but not soccer, the local football team. I'm sorry, I'm Costa Rica minded, right? So sponsored the local football team and attended the Chamber of Commerce, and you kind of became a pillar of the community, and people would just come to you to buy insurance. Well, what is the equivalent of that in the digital age, right?
I think you just hit on it. It's taking that, field of dreams, if you will, the baseball fields, and now digitizing that. You have to
don't know how to do that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what my whole argument is. It's like when you're watching football, soccer, hockey, Desperate Housewives, Vikings of Valhalla, whatever.
That's his favorite show, by the way.
Yeah. And a TV commercial comes on. What's the first thing you do? Phone. Scroll, right? So your attention is going away from the TV onto your phone. So that is why, as an agency/agent, you need to be present on social. And if you're putting out interesting stuff, because Max and I will preach this all day, every day, we are in the show me economy, not the tell me economy. So show me what you know, do not tell me. So if I come across an agent who's given me something really relevant about commercial property and the particular risks in California, for example, and I happen to own property, or I know somebody, or I'm a property manager, and I see that, I'm going to go to you because I learned something from you. Because all of us here, and anybody watching and listening, we follow people on YouTube, we follow people on Instagram, we follow people on TikTok. And why do we follow them? Because they teach us stuff, right? They give us value. And so when they do monetize and sell something, we're much, much more likely to buy from them because we've got value first. And so that's why, as an agency, you need to be present on social, because if you don't exist on social, you don't exist, right? And so that's my whole thing is, where's the attention? Put educational content out there. So when you're in that client's consideration set, they're like, oh, I need this assurance. Who do I know? Oh, I remember that person I follow on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, and I'm going to go to you, right?
And to your point, Lance, when I send an email to somebody, where's that going? To their inbox? Are they looking at that as they're sitting in bed every night? Like, ooh, Max sent me a cold email. No. Are they doing that as, they're watching a TV show? No. It's a combination of everything. It's the emails, it's the phone calls, it's the LinkedIns, it's the advertisings, and pulling everything together ultimately in an engine versus fragmented pieces. And that, you asked one of the value points of Motive Engage, Tony. That's really one of the big ones for us is we're able to fundamentally build those engines and help sales and marketing stop being fragmented.
Yep. And a really interesting stat that we did some research on is we found that 84% of C-suite / executives leverage social media in their decision-making process. So they are using that channel to help sway their decisions, right? So again, going back to my point, you need to be on social. That's why, because what we find these days is people will self-educate first and then they'll come to you. So you need to have your stuff out there so they can be like, okay, these guys do this, they've shown me this, I've learned this, I've consumed this piece of content. Now I'm ready to talk to you. And it ties into, and Max will talk about this all day, is the buyer's journey. It's how does a lead become a paying customer? Do you have that process mapped out? Do you have it documented? And do you have relevant content that maps to each stage? Because if I am top of funnel and I know absolutely zip about you, and you send me a 10-page ebook, I'm not going to read it. But if I've gone through meetings, gone through an evaluation, now I've got a proposal or contract or what have you sitting in front of me, now you send me that same 10-page ebook, I'm much more likely to read it because I'm much more engaged with you, right? And so that's what we say. It's make sure that those things align, because it's not just a case of, oh, let's people through a cookie cutter sales process that we think works. It's how do we bolster that out with the right kind of content that speaks to where that customer is in their journey, which goes back to sales foundation, right? So a lot of that does not exist. And I personally hadn't seen it until I worked for a Google Cloud partner, and a lot of what Google are doing are very, very, very similar to what we are doing here at Motive Engage and the things that I've been able to leverage to be successful. Because, Max has had a good career in sales. I've made President's Club at a, $200 million SaaS company. So we've had success in the sales space. So it's taking that knowledge, like these things, and then putting that out for other people to use.
Let's so it looks like on the website, I always like to look at the website. It looks like you basically got 4 distinct services. So VP of Sales as a service.
Yep.
I haven't seen it called that way before. So what types of companies is that meant for? Is that meant more for like startups trying to sell into enterprise? Or who is that service meant for, and what does that service look like?
Both meant for startups and agency world. So we can come in there. Obviously, we're not licensed agents either. Don't claim to be. But what we can do is again, what Lance said, is help set that foundation level for the VP of sales, for those leaders, to fundamentally be able to grow the organization versus, stumbling over seeing what works, right? There's templates from understanding your ICP all the way down to, here's an easy to use deal tracker so everybody can understand, what these deals are worth with a weighted average, right? Versus just having, a downloaded Excel report or things that people plug in. So we can work with multiple different types of organizations with that. And, they've seen success with it. And where we've gotten all this knowledge from is just over the years, things that we've done, things that we've built, things that we've seen other people do and implement successfully. We've been able to sort of put all that together, into the different services. But even outside of the services on the website, we've found it's really grown and transformed a lot beyond that, because we'll start with one of those individual services and then we can do websites, we can do things like content creation. There's a whole plethora of other things around that. We're right now going through a couple of CRM implementations and rebuilds. So there's just a lot on the plate, and there's a lot of different things that we can do to help organizations, from things that we've seen, from the startup world all the way to, Fortune 500 companies.
All right. So VP of service,
Yep.
Then GTM planning. I wasn't familiar with the GTM acronym. So go-to-market planning. I think we talked
Right.
about that at the beginning. Understand your the infrastructure you need on the sales side, set the processes, onboarding, sales enablement, the tech stack, product market fit, finding your ideal customer, that kind of thing that an insurtech would definitely and often that works. Well, often they call us to hire a sales leader and they have not thought about all of this. So this makes a ton of sense. And sales leaders in our space in insurtech are horrifically expensive. I mean, we're more than happy to help you find one. Like I get paid very well when one of those people gets placed. But doing that work up front will definitely help that person be successful and the team they bring in be successful.
Because instead of giving them a whiteboard and just saying, hey, meet my expectations, you're really defining exactly what they need to do to hit those expectations, to grow and to become an effective sales leader, not just what the average sales leader now lasts about 18 months.
Yeah.
Don't become another statistic. Set the foundation.
That's a great way to put it. A great way to put it. Okay. And
you know,
go ahead.
Sorry, Tony. Talking about, go-to-market planning, it's little things like partnerships, on our website, if you guys want to jump on, we have a free partner playbook blueprint, because a lot of people, A, don't know even how to define a good partner. B, they don't know how to set up any kind of like reciprocal strategy where both are benefiting. Because what we've seen, especially in the insurtech world, is let's partner with each other and you give me leads and I'm going to do zero for it. I'm just going to sit back and expect you to give me leads. No, that's not how that works, right? And then it's the channels. It's how do you select which shows to go to? Are you going to be 100% marketing driven? Are you going to be 100% sales driven? If you're going to be sales driven, where are you going to go? Not every show is going to be good for you, right? Not every partnership is going to be good for you. Because what we've found in the insurance world specifically is a lot of the associations, they're a really, really great place to partner because they give you a lot of visibility into a very large amount of people. But what value are you bringing? You can't just go to SIAA and say, I want to partner with you, now send me 5,000 leads. No, this is the value that I can bring. I can teach you about this. I can teach you about that. And this is how we'll partner together, right? Because the value on one side, value on the other side, and then together, right? And it's deciding how you want to go about it. Like I said, just pick your channels, man. Like, how do you want to go to market? And then it's defining through that. So between that and then the sales foundation, mushing that together, that makes the big sales bubble, right? Because Max and I are not sales trainers. We're not sales managers. Like, we won't, do pipeline reviews. Like, there's 1,000,001 sales trainers in the world. We sit underneath those guys, right? So we set the foundation for those guys to then come in and leverage. So it's a very important distinction.
That's fantastic. On the content creation side, so content creator as a service, are you basically, once you understand who we're trying to reach and what we do, you guys can completely take over creating the content, or are you also able to spoon feed out of my producers or my principals the stuff we know that once they sit down with us?
Choice D, sort of all the above.
Perfect. That's perfect.
Whether they want us to take over and do it completely for them, or it's more of a coaching, one-on-one. Here's who I'm trying to reach. Here's the type of message that's going to be effective with them. And here's the, social channel to meet them on. Yeah.
Because what we're in the process of doing, Tony, is turning our services into self-led courses that anybody can put themselves through. Because Max and I have had interesting experiences with consultants in the past. And what we found is they'll come in, just dump like a methodology onto you and then take their paycheck and then bye. Whereas we will come in, physically do the work for you. And then when we leave, you guys will be empowered to do it yourselves because you don't want to keep us around forever. We don't want to keep you around forever, right? So we want to set that and then move on. And the individuals can put themselves through it because if the company, it's not the right time, they don't quite have, you know, the budget for it, or they're just kind of not ready for that jump, it's not going to hold them back, right? Because specifically in insurance with producers, they are their own like business, you know, they are running their own business, so to speak. And so if we can help both of them, then obviously that's going to be very mutually beneficial.
Fantastic. All right. And the social media manager service,
Mhm.
how is that different from the content creation?
Yeah.
That's the guy who's very good at content creation. And
Yeah.
like we create a ton, goes out once, and then we forget about it basically.
Yeah. So one kind of figures the other. So some people will want to do their own socials, but they want somebody to do their own content, and then vice versa. So imagine like the social media, so it's running socials, you know, things like how to post, when to post, how to write a post, building the community, how do you engage with your community, how do you set up all those things, right? And then the content creator as a service is like a plugin for those who want us to do it. Some people don't. So that's why we very specifically pull them apart and then give the customers the choice, right? Because some people are very, very, very good at it. Like I can rattle off 10, 20 names right now of people who are killing it with the social, but they might just need a little help with the content, right? And then vice versa, because there's a very specific way across all the channels. Like LinkedIn works very different to Instagram, which works differently to TikTok, which works differently to Facebook, right? You can't do the same thing. You can repurpose content, but you can't do the same strategy, right? And so that's where the social media manager as a service comes into play, because the customer will be like, okay, I want to do Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Okay, cool. This is how you do it. We have set guides top to bottom. This is how you do it, right? And then do you want us to do your content or do you want to do your own? And then they'll tell us. And then we will put that together and that becomes our offering.
Because also too, it's that little push as well. You know, how many people, you know, might write one little LinkedIn post, do a post here, do a video there, but really that overall push too, to be consistent with it, because that's how you ultimately build the brand, you know, continue to share your knowledge and compound the thoughts at the end of the day, because it shows depth of knowledge versus just surface.
Because our customers are asking us to post like literally for them on LinkedIn under their profiles. Because I just don't want to deal with it. They're like, I want, you know, the goodies and I want the rewards, but I don't want to do anything, you know, basically. So that's what we've been helping out a few people with. So.
Okay, so fully
And all that ties
outsourced.
together back into the sorry to cut you off, Tony, ties together back into the sales process. So the content that we're putting out, the social posts that we're doing, who's liking that? Who's interacting with that, right? And then being able to drive those people back into the funnel,
Yep.
you know, based on what particular piece of content. So, and so you can ultimately segment them. It's not, hey, these 50 people over the past month like my posts and interact with my content. It's these 4 agencies, these 5 MGAs, these 5 carriers, these 10 insurtechs. And you can have segmented conversations and segmented marketing to go out to them.
Yeah.
Okay. I always like to hear the origin story. How did you guys realize this was a need and that you were the right people to jump on it?
Ever see the movie Boiler Room? So that's pretty much how Lance and I met. I had just moved to California and Lance was already working with the company. I walked in, was like, what the heck is sort of going on? And, you know, quickly latched on to Lance because he had been there for a little bit and, you know, just saw how he was doing and what he was doing well and sort of replicated that. And then from there, you know, it ultimately grew into, wait, there's more that needs to be done versus just being that person that can pick up a phone 1,000 times a day and, you know, smile and dial and maybe, you know, get some meetings booked.
Because Max and I have been victims of lack of sales foundation. So I've personally worked at companies where don't know who the customer is. Let's just spray and pray, sell to everybody, and that never works out, right? And then vice versa, you might know who your customer is, but you don't have a product that's ready for market, right? And so you're basically selling a dream. And so that's where that came from, because we implemented what Motive Engage does at previous companies, because what we wanted to do was, do we actually know what we're talking about? or are we just, do we have a God complex, right? And so Motive Engage has been about 10 years in the making. And so now we're like, okay, cool. We've had the traction, we've implemented it, it's actually worked. Now we have something. And literally, when we went to market with Motive Engage, we had a conversation with bunches of people, and they were like, wow, this is really good, man. Like, people need this thing, And so it's validating for us. I mean, who are we really in the bigger scheme? Just two punk kids that met, in a sales job 10 years ago. And here we are, having customers paying for something that we created. It's like, man, you got to like pinch yourself sometimes, So,
I do have to say, 10 years of experience in insurance.
Yeah.
So if you're pitching this to an insurtech, they're like, oh my God, they're veterans. If you're pitching this to an insurance agency, they can definitely be like, 10 years, you're having a good start, kid, right? But
it's not even that, Tony. It's more about taking those, I don't want to say legacy processes, because they're not. They're those big company processes that work from a SaaS sales environment and translating those into the insurance world at the end of the day.
I was going to say the SaaS sales environment. So just looking at quick perusal of your LinkedIn's, like Lance has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 companies, all of whom in their way are tech companies, SaaS or not. And then Max, did you guys work together multiple times at multiple companies?
Yeah,
just a few.
Yeah, we're a package deal, man.
So
that's fantastic. I'm seeing like, oh my God, they have the same exact LinkedIn basically, with the exception of Max's experience at the world famous enterprise management training program. Awesome. That is fantastic. So yeah, package deal is a great way to put it. And I've got to say, so for the listeners, if you made it this deep in, you can rent the accumulated knowledge of several SaaS companies. And I've got to say that we also can't underestimate the ability to rent this ridiculously sexy New Zealand accent. So if you want a voiceover,
oh, stop it.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much. This has been a lot of fun. What I would love to because you guys just launched, right? We're recording, so you said 10 years in the making, but just launched as your own thing, right? Just a couple months ago before we recorded. It'll probably be 3 months by the time this goes live, which will probably be late August, early September. We'd love to have you back in a year or two and maybe bring a client with you, whether that's an insurtech or an agency or one of each, and have them tell how you change their marketing and sales. That'd be fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, appreciate you. Thank you, man.
Thanks, Tony. Really appreciate you taking the time to interview Lance and I.
Anytime. Thank you. That's I'm kind of assuming that this was the first podcast appearance as Motive Engaged. So you heard it here first, people. If you go to them because you heard them here, let them know that you heard them here. I don't get commission on it, but I do like the pride of getting those messages from former guests saying, hey, we found the client because of you. So let them know that you heard him here. And thank you so much for your time today.
Cool. Thanks, everyone.